I'm Christian Fraser. You're watching The Context on BBC News. We have to verify President Biden airs his scepticism over a deal with China to curb the flow of fentanyl into the US amid a nationwide crisis. Not often we get the Palestinian Foreign Minister calling into the office on his way around the chancelleries of Europe. So my apologies to our panel who are with us tonight. Lester Holloway, the editor of The Voice, and former Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Jennifer Carroll. Thank you to you both for your patience tonight. I'd like to get your reaction, before we move on, I want to get your reaction to what you heard. He's been to see Sergei Lavrov, the Russian Foreign Minister, today. Jennifer, he'll meet David Cameron, the Foreign Secretary here, and then he's off to see Emmanuel Macron tomorrow. It sounded to me like he's on a mission and that they are in the game, that they want to maybe take over in Gaza, whatever people have said.
It sounds that way, but interestingly enough, he's not admitting, when you are going to be credible, you have to admit that either one side has done wrong and this is the way to correct it, or the other side is doing things right and this is what we could embrace. Now, they did have fair election, democratic elections in Gaza, and they elected Hamas to be their leaders, so to be the leaders of that area. And you see how things unfolded.
But we know the takeover of that, Jennifer. I mean, that was back in 2005-06. There was a bloody takeover by Hamas. Yeah. Fatah, which is the other party that was in Gaza, was kicked out, and they have ruled since then. So, I mean, the real question is whether the Palestinian Authority would go back there with any credence, with any ability to govern the people who are there.
Well, here it is, and would the people come back? People have been so displaced, and it's going to be a long time until it's rebuilt again. A lot of people will make money in the construction and clearing up of that area, but who would come back into the area? That's another question. So he's assuming that all these displaced Palestinians will choose to come back into the area and have free and fair elections as he would like, but it may even be a mixed bag. It may not only be Palestinians.
Lester, he talks about elections, and I tried to put him on the spot. It's very difficult to hold elections when you don't have the infrastructure, but clearly there will be an urgency to get some sort of mandate. Do you think it could be done within a year, and could the Palestinian Authority rule in Gaza in the interim?
Well, I don't know how long it will take, but one of the interesting points that the Palestinian Foreign Minister made was he used the word Marshall Plan. So what he was talking about there, I think, is a wide-scale rebuilding of Gaza, much of which has been absolutely flattened. I think almost half of homes have been destroyed there. So before there are elections, it will need to be rebuilt. There's no indication that Palestinians in Gaza who've been displaced want to go to other countries. So they want to return, but actually they want to quite often return to the homes in which they were originally raised. And many people have been displaced from the West Bank and other areas of Israel, but particularly the West Bank, and those are the Gazan residents that are currently under siege and under bombardment. So that shows that actually it's about dealing with that situation. When it comes to elections, the other thing that I think we need to bear in mind is that just as this current conflict didn't start on October the 7th, it has its roots going back decades. So too, the situation of Hamas being in control in Gaza isn't just a recent phenomenon. Previously, the PLO were very strong and represented Palestinians, and they were undermined by past Israeli governments, which actually empowered Hamas. Now, with all of the killing and 13,000 Palestinians have been killed in this conflict, we have to be real and to actually acknowledge that that's going to have a negative effect. It's going to radicalize many people there, because if you've seen your family being killed, your neighbours being killed, that's going to have an effect. We know that bombing radicalizes people. So how is that going to affect an election? So that is the dilemma, because if you don't allow elections, then effectively you've got an occupation, and if you do allow elections, if you do allow the Palestinian people to choose, then the impact of this current crisis is going to show in how they vote.
Yeah, the psyche of the Palestinians, as you say, is an unknown factor, because it's been so long since they went to the ballot. And of course, if they were freed from Hamas rule in Gaza, what would that mean, and who might they choose the other side of it? Let's move on, because I want to get your thoughts, both of you, on this story. So Chris Whitty, England's chief medical officer, says the British government could have moved up a gear in February 2020 when he warned the pandemic could lead to thousands of deaths. He was speaking at the COVID inquiry today. He said ministers failed to act when it was reasonable to think that we could be looking at maybe as many as 100 to 300,000 deaths. Despite escalating these concerns to the top of government, they were slow to take action. So Chris said the dangers posed by COVID had not, in my view, been seized in the way that a similar kind of level of existential threat would have been from another direction.
This wasn't